President Trump tore into Democratic mayors over crime plaguing some major cities. You're watching Outnumbered Overtime right now. I'm Harris Faulkner. Violence raging in New York City, where one person was killed and 5 others hurt in a Brooklyn shooting early just this morning. And among 13 shootings citywide over the past 24 hours. Let's go to Chicago now. At least 14 people were shot on Monday and 2 people killed. I want to bring in Steve Kardian, Trump 2020 Campaign Advisory Board member, former chief investigator of the New York City Department of Investigation. This is a great mix of your skills and expertise on our show today. Good to see you, Steve.
Thanks for having me, Harris.
So as you look at what's happening in these big cities and the idea of the president then wanting to help with federal help, what could that look like, and is that a good idea?
It is a good idea. We have things in common that all these cities are sharing. They're acting, the mayors, that is, and governors in some cases, nonsensical. They're devoid of common sense. They are restricting the police officers to a point of complete ineffectiveness. And we look at New York. We see they've taken away the stop and frisk. We see that they've dismantled the street crime unit, 600 people, officers that have taken guns off the street for as long as I can remember. Bail reform by the governor. The light touch, hands-off approach. They've taken their defensive tactics program and eliminated, so police don't want to do anything because they'll be arrested. So what they are doing is they're allowing guns on the street, where in years past, they would have like a gangbanger, they would have guns in a bag, they would keep it in a specific location where members would have it accessible. They've got them in their drawers, in their cars. Now they're carrying them without fear of arrest on their person, and it's the opportunity that they're allowed to shoot and kill as children as young as 1 year old. This is totally out of control on the Democratic cities.
Of course, you're talking about that 1-year-old here on the East Coast who was killed over the weekend. It's heartbreaking. What do you do, though, about going above the heads of locally elected officials? I was showing you just one there in the area on the West Coast, and I'm just wondering, what does that do politically? Because now you're stepping up above those who are really there to do their jobs and protect and serve, as roles as locally elected officials.
The president actually is doing the right thing, of course. Like the U.S. Marshals, for example, their missions change so often. So he can federalize them. He can bring in the FBI. These cities should be utilizing the federal government to enforce the RICO statutes, which is the criminal element of creating a criminal enterprise, murder, drug trafficking. These are all the problematic things that the cities are facing, and they're not being dealt with. So, at this point, the people want law and order, and you can't have law and order unless you have law enforcement. So the president identifies this as a huge problem, and he's going to federalize, and every one of these cities should have brought in the National Guard. So if they had lined Fifth Avenue with the National Guard, we would not have seen the kind of damage that is unprecedented in our city.
Yeah, I'm wondering why we didn't see that, because it worked in the city of Minneapolis, right, where all this started with George Floyd's death, on video. The nation altogether yoked that was wrong and that was murder. And Minneapolis said, their leadership knew that they couldn't get anything done without the National Guard there as a second line behind police officers. I'm just wondering, can you look at this and say, well, why would people not want that?
The governor and mayor wanted this to be as it was, completely chaotic, people getting hurt, hundreds of police officers injured.
But is that fair to say? No one wants anybody to get hurt.
No, not necessarily that they wanted them to. I'm sorry, they allowed this to, by not utilizing the National Guard, by telling them the light touch, hands off, let the looters, the protesters express themselves. And unfortunately, if you listen to Commissioner Shea, they've never seen violence at this level. They've done thousands and thousands of protests, but they've never seen violence or organization at this level. They should have recognized that, and they should have taken action to minimize the damage that these people caused.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about New York, because you're talking about Dermot Shea here on the East Coast, it's tough because people are really fearful right now. I want to get to this, though, because you do wear those two hats, as I said. You've got law enforcement. Let's talk 2020 advisory to Trump. The Biden campaign is hitting back against President Trump's news conference from yesterday, where he accused the former vice president of being soft on China and moving too far to the left, saying what we heard in the Rose Garden today wasn't a president at all. It was a politician who sees his reelection slipping away from him. The American taxpayer should be reimbursed for the abuse of funds this spectacle represented. Steve, what's your reaction to that?
You know, the president is his own man. He is going to speak to the country, the people of the United States, as he has done for the past 3.5 years. So I don't see it anything other than informing our citizens of what's going on. And China, that's a big problem. And we know Biden's history with China. Some people even call him Biden China.
So but from a political standpoint, I'm just curious because there are calls for funding to reimburse, that it was a political event. It did go down the road of, going after his opponent. What are your thoughts about that?
This is what he does. The president has his own style. He does it his way. And, this is the opportunity he seized. He mixed it in with a variety of other things. And I personally don't see a huge problem with that.
All right, Steve, I want to go back to, as you put it, and I wrote down what you said, can't have law and order without law enforcement. Let's talk about where the president is today with the National Association of Police Organizations. That group is expected to make a presidential endorsement as soon as today, potentially. President Trump made his pitch to that group on Monday, as police unions have been moving away from Joe Biden amid concerns that he's embracing an anti-police rhetoric. What do you make of it all? And what should the president do next? Is it a big deal if this group says, yes, we're with you, President Trump?
It is, especially in the fact that he supported, Obama and Biden in the past. And what we look at also, just as importantly as the organization that we're going to hear from today, is that the International Union of Police Associations back in the fall, which has a membership of over 100,000 officers endorsed him, as did the FOP. We're talking about the fall of 2019, and they have over 300,000 members. That's kind of unheard of that they come out that early in the game to endorse the president.
I would mention that last time around, this particular police organization sat 2016 out. Before that, they backed Obama and Biden, and now they are talking with President Trump. What is it about Biden's message that specifically as an advisor to the Trump campaign, you latch on to and say, yeah, this is a strategy for us?
Well, the Unity platform wants to pretty much, in essence, without listing the 30 things that they want to do away with federal law enforcement, do away with ICE, do away with the Border Patrol, end prosecution for illegal people crossing the border illegal, if you will. They're going to support sanctuary cities. Now, I heard the president earlier talking about MS-13. Not only in addition to my law enforcement, but after I retired, I worked for the U.S. Marshals as a contractor. I handled MS-13 offenders. I handled the Trinitarios, the most violent gangs in the United States. Long Island alone had 50 murders. So we see law enforcement, and I have contacts all across the country that I still stay in touch with. They see him as the law and order president, and they are honored that they are able to represent him.
All right. Steve Kardian, thank you so very much for being on the program today. Look forward to next time.
Pleasure, Harris. Thank you.